as best you could, talk about and personalize it to your family, because the Stan thing, I mean, his roots were Russian Jewish gypsies. Okay, and
Yep.
I want you to talk about, where you talked so eloquently about Stan's genius and his hauntedness and what he struggled with, and I want to know how it ties back to that Russian Jewish gypsy indigenous. That's where the bloodlines were from.
Yes. Well, first of all, I am Russian Jewish also,
That's why I'm asking.
but
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I felt very connected to Stan, even though he was way older than me. And there is something in the Jewish Russian stock. It teaches you to be very self-reliant and very proud. Never apologize, never explain, and always to, even if you don't feel it, to give the appearance of being in control and sometimes even in authority, which can be great if you're a leader, which he was, and he was absolutely fantastic on the bandstand. There was never a moment when he was faltering. Like when I was playing with Chet would sometimes get so scared or get sick or just, say, Richie, help me. That was a whole different kind of aesthetic. But Stan was in control, and it all came from his confidence with his horn. Stan was a natural musician. He studied a little bit, but he's complete natural genius. Very much like Mozart, very much like Schumann, Clifford Brown, but not, he was not a late bloomer. He was an early bloomer, like Tony Williams.
But I want you
And
said
those
something
guys.
very. I want to ask you a question. You said something about this need, even with authority, to always seem self assured, never seem.
Yeah.
Can you relate that at all to his, like when he was with Teagarden? I mean, he was petrified. I was talking to a psychologist who was Dizzy Gillespie's stepson, who, he was having panic attacks, and Stan was on the couch
Yeah.
with him one day, and Stan was like, when I went on the road with Teagarden, I was scared shitless. These guys were older than me. They bullied
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Listen, most of them were guys that they were not the best musicians, because the best musicians went off to the war. But just going back to that Jewish Russian heritage, how do you think that played
Yep.
into his early career and maybe his cutting, basically trying to hold up against, trying to hold his own when he was only in ninth grade?
Yeah. The thing was, his father taught him not to show fear, and under any circumstances. And it's amazing that he actually talked to that shrink, but these were different kinds of guys. These were different men from a different generation, They came up very hard. And Stan was not intellectual. He didn't know where his talent came from. The problem with prodigies is that they never have a childhood, and because they're really like grown people in children's bodies, and it's so great. Oh, it's so great, but sometimes they burn out or go crazy. Stan had all kinds of fears. He never showed it, especially with those older cats. You show you're afraid, they're bullying you, and then the next thing is you're a pussy and you're out of the band. It was a hard school. Same shit happened to me with Sonny Stitt. I was at a jam station. No, I was playing with Stan, and Sonny Stitt came in,
Sure.
and Stitt took over like he was the leader, and Stan loved him, and Stitt trained Stan, right?
Right.
So Stitt comes up on the bandstand and says to me, I'm playing with Al Forster and Ron McClure, okay? And he says, all things you are. First note, F sharp. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Just like that. And Stan is smiling, right? We're all smiling. Now, luckily, Stan trained me how to do that. This was like, okay, corral, go for your gun. And he said, these old cats, it's like a family that passes on abuse. Who knows what Bird did to Sonny Stitt or Lester Young or Papa Joe, those old guys, right?
Right.
So they feel like that's part of like hard school training. and they're really helping you. Like in the military, in the SEALs or Special Forces, there's a saying. It says the more you bleed in training, the less you bleed in combat, right? It's like basic life shit. So Stitt was going crazy on us, but I was prepared. I knew how to play that tempo. I could burn, and I knew the tune in every key. Because guess who taught me Stan, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then we're burning, and I played a solo, and I looked right at Stitt when I was playing, and then he started to smile. He liked it. Then we're friends. But you have to pass the shit. It's terrible. I never do that to my kids, to my students. I would never.
I mean, this is so important, though. I mean, how much of that is you've nailed it. It was a different kind of upbringing. It was I mean, in some ways, Stan was prepared for this OK Corral mentality because of his gypsy Jewish upbringing. I mean, first of all, his father.
Absolutely.
I think also just because you're not. His dad was kind of not a flunky, but he struggled. It was Goldie, his mom, who kicked his ass. That's who instilled.
Right.
That's who instilled in him to be fearless. But I just want to know, because with those bebop guys, I mean, I talked to Ron Carter last week. He gave credit to Stan to get into the ring with the guys who made the music, like
yes.
like Stitt and Diz, and it was interesting. Again, it was this white black. He was very clear that it was black music, black American music, but yet
absolutely those Norman Granz tours, Jake. Those Norman Granz tours that had Stan and Coleman Hawkins and Sonny Rollins, and then they had Buddy Rich on drums and Stan. It was like a basketball team with two white guys. You know what I'm saying? And they came up. Yeah, think about Larry Bird and Havlicek with all the other motherfuckers, right?
Right.
Anyway, it was a different time, and these guys came up hard. Now I have to say that Stan did not abuse me on the bandstand. He was not like that. He did it in the room, right? He would do it after. But those old cats, they did it right on the bandstand. If you weren't playing right, or they didn't think that you were doing the right shit, or they just thought that you needed a kick in the ass, they would tell you right on the microphone. You know what I'm saying? And believe me, it's a very hard way to learn. My father taught me how to swim. You know how he taught me how to swim?
He just threw you in the deep end.
He took me to the deep end, threw me in. My mother was saying, "What are you doing?" He said, my father said, "Shut up. He's going to learn."
Right. I mean, this is so. I mean, I'm teaching my second daughter how to swim, and that would be. I mean, I'd probably go to jail for child abuse at this point. You know, I mean, it's a. But
I know.
Go back. So you were, even though you were younger, than Stan could have been your uncle or father. You know, in some ways, he was your older uncle. I remember in the first interview you said he was like my uncle, or your one of.
Yes, he was.
You know, but I mean,
he was not a father because he was too man to man. You know, we would talk about drugs, we'd talk about girls. I mean, I never talked about that stuff with my father until much later. I was too scared or uncomfortable. And by the way, so was he. My father landed on D-Day, so he's a different generation. But Stan, also, after a while on the bandstand, we're comrades, we're brothers. It's not like I'm little Richie and he's great Stan, because I'm his piano player, and I make him sound good. So he needs me. He cannot fuck with me in that way, because he needs me, and that, it's one thing at a jam session. You get in, you go, you burn out, and you go home. You lick your wounds or you feel happy. But I was with him for 3 years. You know what I'm saying? We had to live together. So he didn't want that stress. He was great on the bandstand.